Think of it as like an intelligent concierge, right, for home buyers and basically their true friend in this journey.
When we decided to call it Propsoch, we said Soch is something which we want people to do when they go about buying a house, right? We want them to think before they actually make the biggest investment of their life. So we decided to call it Propsoch.
Hey everyone, we have recently completed 3 years at Propsoch and we have the co-founders today with us. We are sharing the platform with Ashish and Ravi. We want to know from you, Ashish and Ravi, what actually Propsoch is.
Think of it as like an intelligent concierge, right, for home buyers and basically their true friend in this journey. People are usually very lost, tend to fall, like prey to a lot of mis-selling, a lot of FOMO, a lot of spam, a lot of misinformation throughout. There is really no single authority or no single place that you can rely on. And you can say that, okay, hey, I can get all my queries answered here. Ashish, would you like to add something to it?
Sure. I think the answer to your question lies in the name Propsoch itself. When we decided to call it Propsoch, we said Soch is something which we want people to do when they go about buying a house, right? We want them to think before they actually make the biggest investment of their life. So we decided to call it Propsoch. So in a nutshell, what we're doing at Propsoch is basically empowering home buyers to make informed home buying decisions. Given the state of the market, the way homes are being sold today in the country is quite concerning. I personally have been in the industry for close to 15 years, plus 3 years now at Propsoch. And what I've observed and what I've seen is that the way people are being made to buy homes is based on fancy brochures, beautiful walkthroughs, and souped up apartments called mock-up units. But no one is really telling them the real story about a property. No one is really talking to them about the pros and cons, right? And this is the biggest challenge in the industry, that someone's trying to make an intelligent decision, but they're not getting access to data, they're not getting access to subject matter experts who can actually tell them the pros and cons of a property so that they can take an informed decision. No one today even orders something on Amazon without reading the reviews, without looking at the ratings, without looking at the technical specs. So why is it that people have to buy a house without having access to that kind of information? That's what we're solving for at Propsoch.
It's really interesting to know about this whole idea behind Propsoch, but I would actually like you to deep dive into how this idea actually came into being and what were your thoughts when you started this whole setup.
Like I said earlier that I've been in the industry for close to 18 years now. I've worked with developers, I've worked with real estate consulting companies, and I worked across the spectrum with respect to geography of the country, and the problem and the pain points remain the same for home buyers. I noticed that when we were acquiring lands or when we were signing joint developments with landowners, there used to be a lot of risks which we used to identify as a corporate, right? We used to do technical due diligence, we used to do financial due diligence, and we used to do legal due diligence. Now, all those risks which we identified, we were able to figure out its impact, and we are also able to figure out how to mitigate them, right? Unfortunately, today for an individual home buyer to get into that kind of depth and to do that kind of research when they're buying a property is practically next to impossible. And why is that so? Because there's opaqueness of data. There's no single platform where you can put all the data together and get a genuine insight. So how this idea came about was when I was working with Anurag, which is a real estate consulting firm. A close friend of mine who's an IIT IIM pass out, right, was about to buy a property, and he just asked my opinion about are there any possible challenges on this property. He had visited the property thrice, he had done his whole research, as you can imagine, someone who's from IIT and IIM, right? When I had one look at the property, and I used the same lens that I would look at from if I was acquiring that property for a developer, right? I noticed there were some glaring risks in the property. For example, there was a huge drain right outside the balcony of the apartment that he was about to buy. Now, he had never noticed that drain because the apartment was under construction. So what we did was we looked at the city development plans and we looked at Google images, and we figured out that this drain is going to be a huge constraint once he moves into the house. The moment I told him that, he was shocked and he said I was going to pay 3 crores for this house, and it would have been the biggest mistake of my life. And he said, if you advise me to buy a property, I'll blindly go and buy that. That's when I realized that if someone as smart as him was not able to figure out the risks in a property, There are thousands and thousands of home buyers in the market who might be struggling with the same problem. So then I thought about, what if I use my experience, my access to information in the market, and put together a tech platform where home buyers can come and make more informed decisions by connecting with our experts. And that was the origin of Propsoch. It's been 3 years since then, and we're going strong, and I'm really happy that we've been able to change the lives of more than 250 home buyers in Bangalore.
That's really nice to actually know from you, Ashish, the whole thought process behind this and how you've actually gone through it, and now you have prepared a platform for the home buyers. That's really great to know. You are also aware about this, Ravi, that in office also we often hear about a term which is called buyer-centric model. So I really want you to deep dive into it and actually tell us what this is.
If you look at the history of real estate, right, it first started with obviously aggregation from brokers, right? Brokers would come in and they would say that, considering you do not have access to inventory or you cannot keep up with the changing inventory, changing prices, and so on and so forth, we will help you identify, right? That was limited because brokers typically tend to work in a limited segment, limited market. If someone, for example, is working in Kormangla, HSR, Indiranagar, they might not be very well aware of, what are the options available in Whitefield, what are the options available in Sarjapur, and so on and so forth. When the internet boom came in, and in the 2000s, the internet companies, when they started to sort of flourish, what they were doing was aggregating supplies from all multiple different brokers, so that becomes a single platform where essentially you can discover all of these different properties, right? We are all aware of the fact that more options does not mean better decisions, right? Like you will fall into the trap of choice paralysis, right? Like you won't be able to essentially figure out how do you even compare. How do you even, let's sort of distill your thoughts, get like a clear framework to find out what is the right property for you. And that's where the buyer-centric model essentially comes in, right? Like, because today, whatever exists in the market is essentially extended marketing arm of the different builders and brokers that are out there. Everything serves, let's sort of to make their lives easier. But for a buyer, there is nothing that is making their lives easier in terms of helping them figure out which areas to actually look into, what is up and coming in a particular neighborhood, what is the track record of a particular builder. There is no platform to help you do all of these in-depth kind of analysis of things, right? Like, people rely on probably, let's say, Google reviews. I mean, but at the end of the day, if you were to compare, let's say, what people do to buy phones, for example, there is a website called GSM Arena, right? Like, where you go and where you put 2 to 3 different like models of phones, and you will get as unbiased comparison as possible. That actually helps you zero in into what you want to go for, what you want to pick. When we mean buyer first, it is right from when they start their journey of figuring out what do they really want to buy. For example, is it an apartment, is it a flat, is it a villa, is it like a plot that they should go into. I mean, today there is nothing that actually helps them make this decision, or how do you even validate these kind of thought processes and concepts, right? To the point that, okay, hey, which areas to consider, which kind of let's say sort of builders to consider, what is the budget range that I should have. There is no platform that actually helps you do all of these things, and we want to change that, and we want to ensure that if we keep the buyer's question, their emotional journey, their let's say sort of intentions at the front and center whenever we are designing our experiences, our products, our tools, the shape and form that they take when let's say sort of they come out, right? They're going to be drastically different from what is available out there in the market today. And this sort of shapes essentially every single interaction that we do with them, right? Like, right from probably like our discovery call, where essentially we truly want to understand the fears that they have, right? And what really keeps them up at night. I mean, when you're going and asking let's say sort of any other entity out there in the market, they're not really concerned about your fears or your nightmares or what is keeping you up at night, right? Like, I mean, but we start there because we want to like lead with empathy, and we want to start from where like your pain points are. Because if we cannot see that gap, and if we cannot like let's say sort of address that gap, then we just like let's say sort of do what others have been doing so far. And that's what we truly mean by saying that buyer-centric, because if we keep that person's emotions, their like let's say sort of challenges, their risks, at the core of our strategizing for their home, that is very essential, right? And that's what buyer-centric to us means.
While going through a lot of comments on social media, on even our YouTube, we post a lot of videos, insightful videos on different topics. So there's a question that everybody keeps on coming up with, how you are also a broker only, no? So I just really want to ask you this question: is Propsoch really a purely real estate brokerage platform?
So that's a great question, Anshika. A lot of people ask us this question, whether we are just brokers, right? Simple answer, we are not at all brokers. Also, we are not just a listing platform where we take money from developers to advertise their projects on our website. There's not a single advertisement on our platform, and all the properties that you see there and all the scores that you see there of those properties are derived from a technical perspective. So how does a home buyer actually engage with Propsoch? So in your journey as a home buyer, you typically have three main stages. The first one is the search stage, where you're trying to figure out what properties are out there which might match your requirements. The second is the research stage, where you're trying to find out what are the pros and cons of the properties that you've shortlisted. And finally, the third stage is the transaction stage, where you're trying to figure out what is the best deal you can get with a developer. So at Propsoch, what we're doing is we're helping home buyers navigate all these three stages along with the help of subject matter experts. So who are these subject matter experts? They're architects who have researched more than 500 projects in Bangalore, and they've been able to cull out a lot of insights and data on these projects, and they use that knowledge along with our tech platform to help a customer get the best options in the search stage, get the deepest insights in the research stage, and finally get the best deal when they're negotiating with a developer at the transaction stage.
So a lot of times, we start with the thought process that people know what their requirements are, and we say that your search is curated for your requirements. But when you're buying a house, like, people don't really know what they need, right? Like they don't have a very clear, vision of what their dream home is. That's the most beautiful part about engaging with a customer, which is when you get on that first call with them, and when let's say if it's a husband and a wife who are trying to get their first home, right? The husband has a very different set of priorities, the wife has a very different set of priorities, and figuring out the alignment between them is almost like a therapy call. I think those conversations is what makes us truly different. I would say a friend rather than a broker who is just transactional in nature. There is no transactional person that will come to you and actually help you clarify your thoughts, even if this might not be the right time for you to buy a home, and this might not be the right city for you to buy a home. We actually tend to call out these things. So but a broker would never do that.
We actually wanted somebody to clear the air, and thank you for being very detailed about this topic. I genuinely want to know how far actually have we come as of now to solve this problem.
So yeah, we've come a long way, Anshika. In the last 3 years, we have helped more than 1,000 home buyers in the city figure out which is the right property for them. And they've done this through various means. Either they bought a house through our entire guided home buying service, or they bought a peace of mind report from us where they were able to figure out whether a property was good for them or not, or they got onto advisory calls with our experts where they were able to answer their most burning questions, right? We also helped a lot of people with legal due diligence, Vastu checks on the properties that they were looking to buy, and a host of other ancillary services. So we are really proud that in a short period of time, we've been able to touch so many lives and ensure that they're not making probably the biggest mistake of their lives by making a wrong investment decision. Having said that, there's been a lot of growth at our company level too. Today we have a team of 25 people. We have our own office at Kormangla, and the journey is just starting for us now, because on the tech side of things, Ravi and his team are building some phenomenal products which are going to help home buyers not only understand which properties to buy, but also a bunch of tools which they can use to understand how their home financing is going to work out, like what kind of return on investments they can expect as they invest in a certain property. And we are super excited about how we are going to leverage tech in the near future. The most exciting bit is we also have an AI play coming in, where we're building a co-pilot for our subject matter experts, where all the institutional knowledge, all the conversations that our experts have had with home buyers is going to be used as training data, because we have analyzed more than 10,000 floor plans right now. We have tied up with more than 200 developers, and we have reviewed more than 500 large projects in the city. So we put all that information together in one training module, which is going to be the backbone of how our advisors work with clients going forward. Ravi, would you like to talk a little more about this?
Sure. So today, every conversation that a customer has with our advisor, there are many research inputs that come in, right? Let's say if a new developer has come in, where have they coming from, right? Like if there is a new, the city is expanding geographically. So if you're researching a new area and if someone else, has to access insights about that particular area, then it becomes a little bit of, to and fro between the team members, their availability and their ability to even pass on the knowledge in a particular form or in a particular format, right? So what we're trying to do is ensure that we distill all of these various different kinds of research, whether it is audio-based conversations, whether it is our detailed notes that we prepare for each and every property when, let's say, a new launch comes in, or when let's say a property is about to get sold out. We obviously have let's say all the different floor plans that we've analyzed, what is good, what is bad about it. So we have trained these models to identify more such pros and cons on not only just floor plans or master plans, but also dive a little bit deeper into things like, let's say, what is good and bad in the legal agreement that you're going to sign with the particular developer, right? What are the parts, let's say, which are favorable for you? What are the parts which are more favorable for the builder, right? And which is is it a fair agreement to even make in the first place, right? So today, I don't think there is any platform that is going to this depth to really find these insights and to to sort of present it in a way that is consumable by a buyer and just makes their life easier, right? It's not just about gathering more and more data, but it is to distill the data into information, and from there into insights, and that's this is sort of the journey that we are trying to take on.
I absolutely agree with you, and we at Propsoch are equally very excited to be part of this whole journey. Lastly, the third most asked question that we get from people is, what are our future plans of expansion?
Yeah, and expanding a business model like this is not going to be easy, and that's why we've taken 3 years focusing only on Bangalore, going as deep as possible in this market before being sure about going to a new city. So the good news is we're launching in Mumbai soon. We have already sent 2 of our best people to Mumbai to collect information on the various projects out there so that we can start helping Mumbai home buyers to make intelligent home buying decisions like their Bangalore counterparts. And you're going to hear about a big launch in the next couple of months. Look out for that.
Thank you so much, guys, for this amazing session.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.